And at this time, we have been told that there are no survivors.
The accident happened in the river. Both the helicopter and the plane crashed in the river.
These responders found extremely frigid conditions. They found heavy wind. They found ice on the water.
What happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. It should not have happened.
The FAA, which is overseen by Secretary Pete Buttigieg, a real winner. That guy's a real winner. Do you know how badly everything's run since he's run this Department of Transportation? He's a disaster. And he's a disaster now. He's just got a good line of bull.
A combative and emotional day in our nation's capital as we approach nearly 20 hours since the worst aviation disaster in the country since 2001. Today, the president confirmed that all 67 people involved in that crash between American Eagle Flight 5342 and a military Black Hawk helicopter are dead. 67 lives lost, mothers, fathers, siblings, and loved ones who never made it home last night. But at the White House briefing today, the president blamed the disaster on the Democrats, the previous administration, and policies associated with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the highest level.
Now here is a live look at the crews right now that are working to recover the bodies and the black boxes inside the crash from American Airlines flight and the helicopter last night. We know it's split into 3 pieces as it crashed into the Potomac River just before 9 o'clock. Now, as for the president's involvement, here's what he has done since taking office 10 days ago. President Trump has fired the head of the TSA, fired the entire Aviation Security Advisory Committee, froze hiring for air traffic controllers, and fired 100 of the top FAA security officers. Now, as for the latest today, according to the New York Times, an internal FAA memo says staffing at Reagan National Airport was not normal last night. The memo reportedly suggests the controller on duty during the crash was doing a job usually handled by 2 people. The NTSB says it's working to recover those black boxes from the plane and helicopter involved in last night's crash. And as families mourn their loved ones, the investigation is now underway into what went wrong to cause this mid-air collision. And the U.S. has not seen a deadly commercial airline crash since 2009. Queen City News reporter Andy Weber joins us now live tonight from Charlotte Douglas. Andy, you spoke with experts today that are saying that there are reasons what happened last night. It is so rare.
Brian, that's because of training, protocol, and technology. Reagan National is in a very busy part of the country, a very busy airport, and a very congested part of D.C. itself, but hasn't seen a serious air crash like this in more than 40 years. I spoke with a retired air traffic controller, George Klein. He says air traffic controllers at Reagan come experienced and sharp, having to operate the single busiest runway in the country in a city where helicopters are constantly navigating in and out. From the recordings he's seen, Klein says it seemed like the tower did everything they could and they were supposed to. Controllers told both the Army Black Hawk helicopter and the American Eagle jet they were close to each other, and for the Black Hawk to maintain its distance, which the Army pilots acknowledged. It's possible they were looking, though, at the wrong airliner.
It was nighttime. There's lights. You could see the lights on the CRJ. But, the way it looked like he impacted him from behind just by looking, on the video, and he may have never saw him.
And Andy, we know the NTSB handles investigations into incidents like these. They had a briefing a short time ago, but no quick answers are expected.
Brian, that's right. Klein, who you just heard from, says with the seriousness and the lots of coverage surrounding this accident, it's possible they could release initial findings if they recover those black box recordings, but the complete investigation could take up to a year and a half. Klein also stressed that this airport is congested and can be complicated to land at, so coming up at 5, we'll have more on what pilots encounter when landing at Reagan National. Reporting live at CLT, I'm Andy Weber, Queen City News.
All right, Andy, thank you. Chief Transportation Correspondent and pilot herself, May Kay Beeler, joining us now. And May Kay, we are talking about those black boxes. They've not been recovered. Air traffic control, we have video from last night. But the NTSB investigators, they're going to be looking at several different things over the next few days.
Right, most importantly, facts. So we want to speculate. So many of us want to point fingers. Who ran into who? We have to wait and hear facts. So the NTSB says they're looking into the human, the machine, and the environment. All those factors. So the human, the pilots in the helicopter, the pilots in the CRJ, were they fatigued? Were they following standard operating procedures? How long had they been flying that day? Were they following sterile cockpits? So sterile cockpit is a regulation that for takeoffs and landings anytime below 10,000 feet, all conversation on the flight deck in the cockpit should be related to the flight. We're not talking about where you're going to have breakfast at Cracker Barrel or the date that you had the night before. It all should be related to the flight. Otherwise, they could be distracted, and accidents have happened because of that. Not saying this is what happened here, but they will listen to the voice recorder. They'll look at the data recorder, too. Maybe something was wrong with the aircraft. Was there a mechanical issue? Was there a human issue? And the environment, it was clear that night, but night is a totally different thing. The stars, the lights on the ground, different aircraft, they can all blend in. So we'll see what the NTSB finds out.
Certainly going to interview the people, the air traffic control.
Absolutely.
About what that happened. That'd be the part of the personal interviews as well. And this water investigation does pose some some challenges as well.
Absolutely. So they say it's in waist deep water, which kind of helps, but they haven't gotten the black boxes or the data recorders yet. But they know that they're there, and it's perishable information. They will be getting that shortly.
And of course, we were saying 30 days for a preliminary investigation.
Right.
All put that puzzle together about exactly what happened.
And the final investigation, at least a year. Can't speculate. I know everyone wants to. And the information out there, folks, the HEC tapes, what you're hearing are not totally complete. There's more to it. The NTSB will let us know, so stay tuned.
And MK, we'll have much more of you coming up at 4:30. Yeah. Thanks. Well, another aspect to the crash involving that military helicopter. At last check, only one of the 3 crewmen on that chopper has been recovered. And while that's happening, the battalion that crew was part of has been grounded. Queen City News anchor Derek Dellinger joins us live near the Air National Guard station at Charlotte Douglas. And a large part of what Air National Guard does here, Derek, in addition to their mission, is the training.
Yes, training is a big part of it, and there's a question that is among the public about what exactly was going on with that Black Hawk helicopter last night. Now, we made a point of talking with a retired Marine colonel a little bit earlier this morning who said these trainings happen for a variety of reasons and happen at a variety of times. And in fact, what was happening last night with that helicopter, they were doing some yearly proficiency training that they have to do. Now, defense officials noted this was a fairly experienced crew. They were based out of Virginia, and we had a chance to speak with a retired Marine Colonel Mark Cansey, and earlier today on Queen City News Now, he noted that the training can involve anything from national security or homeland security missions to even VIP escorting, and all of that essentially needs to be practiced and all of it needs to be trained for. Now, Cansey also noted an important thing, and something that Andy Weber mentioned a little bit earlier, that airspace around D.C., if you have never been there, it is very crowded, and there is a reason why exercises, and for that matter flights, are actually really largely done along the Potomac.
All of those flights are channeled over the river, and they do that to keep the noise down in the suburbs and also to keep aircraft away from sensitive downtown locations.
But this does not explain exactly what happened. It does, however, add some context. But we are also trying to get a sense of essentially where the responsibility does lie here. And defense officials also want that as well. In fact, they're saying they want to determine quickly whether that helicopter was where it should have been at the time. We're now live in West Charlotte. Derek Dellinger, Queen City News.
A lot of questions still. Derek, thanks. Queen City News spoke with a family member who confirms that the flight crew of the plane that crashed in Washington, D.C. was based here in Charlotte. Debbie Epstein was married to flight attendant Ian Epstein for 23 years, and they have 2 adult children. Queen City News anchor Robin Kennedy spoke with Debbie today just before she left Cabarrus County for D.C. And Robin, just an unimaginable tragedy here. What did she share with you?
Oh, it's just so heartbreaking, Brian. Debbie Epstein says Ian just loved putting people at ease on the plane, and everyone loved him. Debbie says Ian switched careers later in life just 5 years ago to become a flight attendant so that he could travel and see the world. She says he was outgoing and was known as a comedian on flights, putting passengers at ease. Debbie was very emotional as she told me Ian died doing what he loved.
It's unfathomable. Like, you don't expect to ever get that phone call. And what's the chance out of 2 flight attendants in the entire world that he's on that flight?
Just so heartbreaking, Brian. And Debbie says their youngest child is set to get married in just 8 weeks. And one of the last conversations that she had with Ian and their daughter and her was about their wedding.
Oh my gosh, and just you just can't, some of the stories that are unfolding right now after what happened, and incredible that she took time to talk to you today as she's heading up to DC after what happened. And all right, Robin, thanks. I know you have much more coming up at 5 and 6 as well.